a nice little stubby one. The majority of his branches are hanging away from these two trees, going towards the sunlight. And so the majority of his weight is facing to the south. And so naturally he's gonna want to go that way. We're gonna want to fall him a little bit closer to the road just to stay out of that area and not kill any of those trees. So we're gonna notch him facing that way. You want to cut halfway into the tree. And if I want to fell it to my right towards Rocky here, I'm gonna want to cut in halfway onto the tree. And then I'm gonna come in at a 45-degree angle. And I'm gonna cut down to my previous cut. And so we're gonna have the mouth of that cut right here. And we're gonna aim it to where the big part of that opening is where we want the tree to fell. And an easy way to figure out how to do that is when you're cutting on the tree, this is what they call a fell line on the chainsaw. So this black line right here that runs through the middle of your chainsaw is what you call your fell line. And that's gonna be a 90-degree angle off of your bar. So if you come here and I'm cutting in on the tree here, I'm gonna face this black line exactly where I want that tree to fall. And if I'm cutting into the tree, this black line is gonna be at a 90-degree against my blade. And so that's where that tree is gonna fall. So if I'm notching in this tree, and if I'm cutting into it, and if I'm facing this black line as I cut into this tree, and if I'm cutting into it like this tree is gonna fall out that way. If I'm cutting into it like this, and this black line is facing down the road, that's where this tree is gonna fall. If your tree is properly weighted correctly on the top.
So whenever you come up to a tree like this, what are you looking for?
I'm looking for any curves in the tree that are gonna tell me which way it's leaning. I'm also gonna be looking at the weight of the branches to see where it's naturally gonna pull it.
Okay, and so when you're assessing this tree, like what are you thinking as you're looking up?
This tree is growing very straight, so it's not leaning in any particular way. It has not been blown by the wind or affected in any way, so it should be growing straight up and down. The biggest thing I'm looking at is just those couple branches hanging off of the tree. And in this case, there's an opening on that side of the tree, and there's more trees on the right side of it. And so it's gonna be going towards the sunlight as much as possible. And so those branches are gonna be hanging off over this meadow. Next plan is just making sure that you have plenty of room around the tree. And also, if this tree had any branches on it that could possibly affect me when it starts to lean and tip over, I want to make sure that if there are a bunch of branches here that I'd be cutting these above my head to where if anything was to happen, they're not going to catch me on the way down. And then exit strategy is just making sure that if this tree goes in any direction that I don't want it to, I have a safe exit plan. Obviously there's no underbrush or anything in my way here, so I can leave in any direction away from this tree.
Great. So where do you want this tree to go? What direction?
I want this tree to fall right in between those two, and I know that it's not going to be tall enough to reach our box over there.
Okay.
You want to do a real quick fall. So, one thing I learned from a friend of mine is if you have a tree and you're not sure the height of it and you're not sure how far it's going to go or where it's going to land, you can just get yourself a stick off the ground, put it into your shoulder like this, hold it on your fingertips, and that's your length of the tree. So now if you hold this stick with the bottom of it on the bottom of your palm, I'm going to hold the bottom of this stick that's flush with the bottom of my palm straight out away from me.
Okay.
And I'm going to hold it at the bottom of that tree. And when that stick reaches the top of that tree, that's when I know how far it's going to fall. So I'm estimating that tree's gonna fall right about here. And I'm gonna aim it so it falls in between these two trees. And so if you have anything right here that you didn't want to hit, like that box back there, you can get fairly close by eyeballing up that tree and it dropping down to where it's about gonna hit.
So now, like if you've got other people in the woods with you, what are just some things to think about if you're gonna be dropping a tree right now?
Things to think about is just making sure that they know that you are felling a tree, and to make sure that they have their head up and they're actually watching it. Ideally, you do get them beyond the fall line of the tree in a 360 radius, just in case. But the biggest thing you don't want to have happen is somebody picking up sticks and not paying attention where this tree could fall in any direction. Because there are things that can happen. There can be different pressures in the tree that you don't know about. There can be a strong gust of wind when you're cutting halfway through that all of a sudden comes up out of nowhere. And also these trees can be leaning more than you think. You can get trees that are rotted out from the inside. And so I want this tree to go this way, but if I don't know that this tree is rotten on the inside and it has everything that's holding this tree up is on the right side, when I go in to cut my notch, if that's the only thing holding this tree, it could crumble in the wrong direction. That's why you want to make sure that nobody's in that 360 radius.
What are some things, like if a tree starts falling in a direction that you didn't guess it was gonna go, like what should you do as a sawyer?
Get out of the way.
Just drop your saw.
You can drop your saw if your saw is in the tree and is currently cutting into the tree. You can leave your saw there and you can get out of the way. Obviously, you want people, you already have everyone's attention that you are cutting this tree, so it shouldn't be a surprise for anybody. They should be able to see it for themselves. And if they're not already out of the fall line, they can